everyone. Welcome back to the Fandom Zone podcast. Did you miss us? I missed us. I hope Jesse missed us. I'm Charles Skaggs, and back in the Fandom Zone. And joining me, as always, is my wonderful co-host and fellow Bruce Springsteen aficionado, Jesse Jackson. How you doing, Jesse?
I am great, Charles. It is good to be back. We have an exciting new show to discuss.
Yes.
And I'm looking forward to kind of spending some time talking to you. So good stuff.
Exactly. So what we're going to do, everybody, here at episode 177 of the Fandom Zone podcast, we are going to talk Stargirl, the pilot episode. The very first episode of season 1 just aired on DC Universe on May 18th, 2020, just like 6 days ago as we're recording this, and then followed the next day on the CW, but that was cut for commercials. They cut out like 10 minutes, and that's something we'll talk about. But this was written by Jeff Johns, who co-created Stargirl, and I'll talk about that in a little bit of trivia later. Directed by Glenn Winter, and I'm curious about what Jesse thinks about this new DC Universe show.
So I have not gone back to DC Universe and watched the full episode. You mentioned to me Wednesday when we were on our other podcast,
right?
And I'm going to go back and make a point of doing that. But I have a hot, creative opinion.
Okay.
I think anytime Jeff Johns is directly involved in a TV show,
yes,
it's better than normal. I think by far, like, his episodes of Smallville rank among the top. I love when the Legion was on Smallville. When he's written these episodes. This is a character near and dear to his heart based on his sister. And I just think this is, I feel like this is what Supergirl was before they lost their way.
Okay.
A joyous superhero TV show.
Upbeat, optimistic.
Yes.
Just innocent. Yeah.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean it can't have depth or character.
Right.
But there is a joy to this episode. And I think this series that I think Supergirl has lost their way and has not been very good at doing anymore.
How do you think Supergirl's lost their way? Just too
serious? The joy and the complicated and the Leviathan and Lex Luthor and all that. It seems to be just a little too convoluted and dark versus.
Okay.
And one of the things I loved about, I'm sticking with it, but there's a joy to this. When you see Courtney and her and the rod and all that, it's good stuff.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that John's naming Courtney Whitmore after his sister Courtney. Some trivia that some people may not know. His sister Courtney died in the explosion of TWA Flight 800 in 1996. And so obviously her death very tragic. And so I think it's safe to say that this project, especially since John's co-created Courtney Whitmore as the second Star Spangled Kid with Lee Moder in this comic I'm holding right here in my hands, Stars and Stripes number 0, from back in the day in 1999. That so obviously I think this is a very personal project for him.
I agree.
And as a result, I think is going to keep a very close eye on it because he's not just a writer; he's an executive producer on this show.
Absolutely.
So, and obviously with the personal connection, I think it matters to him to get this right, or at least the way he sees it as being right.
Yes.
And I think that came through in this first script that he provided here.
I agree.
All right. So for those not familiar with the show, we get the introduction of Brett Basinger as Stargirl / Courtney Whitmore. primarily known from the Disney Channel. Not a fan of the Disney Channel, so I can't say I've watched their shows. Luke Wilson, who obviously I think older people like Jesse and myself will be familiar with. He plays Stripe and the acronym Stripe, so and also Stripesy and Pat Dugan. He's primarily known for, if you've ever seen the film Idiocracy, which I highly, highly recommend.
I agree with you. It is the only thing Idiocracy got wrong was how soon this would happen.
Exactly. It's treated as, like Idiocracy was a film that, like the satire of like, hey, eventually a bunch of idiots end up in charge of everything. And here we are, it's 2020, and unfortunately the Idiocracy film has apparently become a documentary somehow.
Yes.
Of what's going on right now. Otherwise, he's been in other films like Legally Blonde, The Royal Tenenbaums, the Charlie's Angels movie. So a very familiar actor. I'm sure a lot of people know him. Go ahead.
He was lead in Roadies, which I thought was a really underrated series.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's behind the scenes of a touring rock band.
Okay.
And he kind of plays the head of kind of behind the scenes stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, he's an interesting actor because he can play like these goofy characters, and then at the same time he can also play some serious characters as well.
Absolutely.
So he's got range, and I'm sure that's what Geoff Johns was thinking about by casting him. Amy Smart plays Barbara Whitmore. You may know her from the movies Varsity Blues, Starship Troopers, and The Butterfly Effect.
Nice.
We have Trey Romano playing Mike Dugan. Cameron Gelman's playing Rick Tyler, the son of the original Our Man. Angelica Washington was introduced as Beth Chappell, soon to be the new Dr. Midnight. Yvette Monreal as Yolanda Montez, soon to be the new Wildcat. And then we get the introduction of Christopher James Baker as Brainwave / Henry King. Jake Austin Walker as Henry King Jr. So Brainwave Jr., if you're an Infinity Incorporated fan, we'll talk about that. Meg DeLacy as Cindy Berman, the mean girl at Courtney's school, who ends up becoming her arch nemesis. I'll just leave that there. Neil Hopkins as Sportsmaster. He's been on episodes of Lost, Birds of Prey, and Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles. Neil Jackson as the Icicle. Jordan McKent, he was in the movie Quantum of Solace, Push, and he's on the TV series Westworld. Joe Nesovich as the Wizard. Joel McHale as Starman / the original Star Spangled Kid. And Sylvester Pemberton. Primarily, a lot of people know him, like I do, as playing Jeff Winger on the NBC series Community, which was a fantastic sitcom.
Absolutely.
Back in the day. He's also on episodes of The X-Files and the movie Ted. Great actor. Great comedian, too. Henry Thomas, who plays the original Dr. Midnight. And if you know the name of Henry Thomas, you know, hey, he was Elliot in the original E.T. the Extraterrestrial back in the day. And more recently in the TV series The Haunting of Hill House, if you're familiar with that. And interestingly, Lou Ferrigno Jr., son of Lou Ferrigno, who played the Incredible Hulk on the 70s TV series, is playing the original Our Man, Rex Tyler, in this story. And actor named Brian Staff played the original Wildcat. So that's our guest cast. I know it's kind of a lot, but it's our first episode, so I kind of wanted to run everybody down.
Have you heard, are they going to go back to flashbacks of the Justice Society?
I hope so.
Yeah, there's some pretty good...
I think, if nothing else, more flashbacks of Joel McHale Starman, I'm sure.
Yeah. So the other thing I did want to bring up for Barbara Whitmore, the Amy Smart. Yeah. She also played in the 5th season of Justified, she played Raylan's love interest.
Okay.
And she was really good in that. I'm a big Justified fan. Yeah, I think this is a really strong cast. I think they're all well cast. I think they all did well. I have a few nitpicks about some of the storytelling,
Okay.
but as we get into our topics, I think we'll discuss them.
Okay. All right. Anything really standing out, or you want to wait until we get into our discussion?
Oh, let's package.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Um, okay. So I have 4 topics for us to discuss this time. Let's start off. Topic number 1: Stars and Stripe C. So let's talk about Courtney. Let's talk about Pat, and we can also talk about Barbara and Mike as well if you want in this segment. But primarily, the thing that drives this first pilot episode is the introduction of Courtney Whitmore, our new Stargirl, who isn't Stargirl yet technically, and her stepfather, Pat Dugan, the former Stripesy, and now calling himself Stripe, with the added benefit of having this big, huge mech-like armor that he's invented because, hey, he's a mechanic. So I want to get your thoughts on the introduction of these 2 central characters.
So I like them both. Very happy to see this. I would have liked, and I know you can't do everything in a pilot, but I would have liked to know a little bit more of the background. How did he and Courtney's mom get together? Like how did Pat, and who is Mike, like his son? Where is that relationship from? We kind of get in mid-family dynamics, and there's still a lot of working out they're having to do, right? Like not only just we want to know as the audience, but in the world, you've got a blended family. You have a step brother, a step sister, a stepfather, a step mother.
Right.
So we're trying to work that dynamics, and you've moved to a new city. We wonder why that's happening. I think there is a implication that there may be.
Well, they gave an explanation that that Barbara was from there.
Yeah, but then she's offered this really nice job, and we aren't sure yet. I'm suspicious of that.
You should be. You should be.
So yeah, I really like. Breck comes out as very likable. Yeah. I love that her disappointment that there isn't a gymnastics team anymore, which sets a really good job of showing why she is so athletic and why she does a lot of the moves that she does. Luke Wilson is great at playing this kind of, this kind of sad sack, kind of dry person. So I think he's perfect, and their interactions are going to be great together. I love the discussion when he's trying to explain that I was a sidekick, and it was, that was an honor. And she's like, no, you were just this, you were the guy who had to go fetch coffee or whatever.
Right.
You were a late 60s Doctor Who companion, so I like I like the start of their relationship. I like the interactions before. The staff seems to have, the Cosmic Rod has its own personality, which I don't remember that from the comics.
No, that's something brand new for the show.
But I like the idea that it's a little bit mystic, and it has its own kind of similar to like in Aladdin, the flying carpet had kind of a personality.
Yeah.
The Cosmic Rod seems to have, it is not just a tool, it is almost its own persona. And her interaction with him, that could come across silly, but because Breck sells it so well, I buy into that. At least, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason they did that because it gave Courtney something to react to. When she's has the cosmic staff, and she's kind of like not still trying to figure it out, and she's being taken along by it, and so it kind of giving the cosmic staff a little bit of a personality, gave that something to play off of a little bit more than just like, oh hey, it's this big giant stick.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and so and also kind of deepens the mystery a little bit more about what is this thing that I find interesting. Now, I went back and reread the original comics that if for the first few issues at least, to kind of get a feel before watching Stargirl, the TV show, and I noticed that interestingly, Jeff Johns, who wrote both, um, kind of toned it down, at least toned down Courtney's personality a little bit from the original comics. Um, in the comic, she was a little bit more of a little bit more of a hothead, a little bit crueler to Pat than she is here in the TV show, and I'm really glad because that was something like when I was reading the comic, I'm like, well, I hope they tone this down a little
Yeah.
bit, and thankfully they did because in the comic, and I think that's why it was only a very short-lived series that only ran like 15, 18 issues or so. I think it was just that in the comic, Courtney wasn't as likable. And so toning down her personality and her treatment of Pat a little bit, I think it helps here in the TV show. It makes her a much more likable character. Um, like yeah, she kind of butt heads, but it's much more in a friendly way, like kind of like I'm picking on you kind of way.
Yeah, I think
I mean, she's a little resentful, a little bit because hey, it's her stepfather,
sure.
and she's got some deep-seated father issues, as we find out. But she does make this comment like, well, she talks to Pat and she says, "Well, you make my mom happy,"
Yeah.
and nobody's ever done that.
And I think because television is such an intimate medium, Jeff Johns is smart enough to know I can't. What may have worked in a comic isn't going to work in a TV show. You have to like your main character.
Right.
You have to find empathy with her. So yeah, I think that's a very smart move. So yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, and they changed some things like in the comic, like Courtney had the cosmic belt, Sylvester Pemberton's cosmic belt, as the means of her superpower. But here they change it to eventually in the comics she gets Jack Knight's staff,
right,
and becomes Stargirl in the comics. So they kind of basically sped to the end a little bit and gave her that cosmic staff here. But I kind of want to I'm curious to see how that obviously more like we were talking about the mystery of the cosmic staff, and I want to see more of how that plays out. But I do like the initial introduction. I like Courtney's awkwardness. Brec Bassinger is very likable. She's relatable. She's spunky, but not in an annoying, spunky way. If you get what I mean.
Yes, I do. I totally understand.
Because like I thought, Mike, the stepbrother, is a little obnoxious, but he's a stepbrother. He's supposed to be
right.
But you don't want that for your lead character.
Exactly.
And so, so I appreciated that. And as far as Pat, he's basically kind of like he is in the comics, but in this version, he's a lot more secretive, and which I thought was a very interesting thing to add to the character. We find out that, well, hey, he's got these boxes of stuff and things relating to Blue Valley, and so there seems to be a lot more mystery, like of what happened, with the original JSA, and so he has all these secrets that haven't come out yet. The big one, of course, he springs on at the end of this episode when he shows up in the stripe armor, and obviously Courtney had zero idea about that. So. So I think over the course of this series, we're going to see more of these secrets come out, and I think that was good, a good way to do it because it keeps viewers engaged and wondering and asking questions, and helps to kind of keep people coming back for more.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like that. I like the idea that we don't know who Courtney's dad is.
Right.
That's, I think, is an interesting mystery to
we have some theories.
Explore. Yeah, we do have theories, but I think that's good. And and it's enough that I really want to see more of them together. I think the premise, obviously, they will grow closer together, but they'll always be that, stepfather, stepdaughter, and just actually father-daughter
Right.
dynamic that she's going to continue to push the boundaries as a teenager. That's her job, and him trying to keep her safe, and everything is interesting.
Yep. And the one thing I forgot to mention as far as trivia, Blue Valley, the town of Blue Valley, um, actually the hometown of Wally West, Kid
I was
Flash.
I was going to bring that up, but
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm misremembering
No, you're
that.
right.
No,
No,
okay,
you were actually remember that correctly. So
very nice.
that was something it was in the comics, in the Stars and Stripe comic as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, because Jeff Johns being one of the former writers of the Flash, especially during the Wally West era,
Nice.
has a deep affinity for the character. So I kind of like the fact that the the Dugan slash Whitmores end up moving to Blue Valley. Now,
Yeah,
I
that's
would
nice.
love if they would come out with a Wally West
Yes,
connection on this show,
yes.
but I don't expect there to be
No,
one.
no, because
But I
this
would
is
love it if that happened.
because this is set in the Berlanti verse, right? This
Yes,
is
yeah, this is going to
okay.
be on the new Earth 2 post Crisis on Infinite
Okay.
Earths.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is a Berlantiverse show. So we'll see.
Okay.
Like obviously maybe at some future point we'll get crossovers.
Okay.
But as far as I know, right now we're not in. They're not planning any for right now.
Okay.
All
Good
right.
deal.
So right now it's kind of self-contained a little bit. All right. Topic number 2. Let's talk about the original Starman, or at least as far as this TV show goes. Sylvester Pemberton. We talk about Stripesy, Pat Dugan being Stripesy at this point, and the JSA. So what did you think of how the JSA was handled? We get to see their quote unquote end in the beginning in kind of like a very quick flashback sequence as we start off. Oh, and I have to know, since this episode started with the JSA, it also started with a Bruce Springsteen song.
Yes, it did.
Did that happen to add to your appreciation for this episode at all?
Yes, it always Bruce makes everything better, Charles. We know that. Yes, I thought it was very funny to set that it's at Christmas time. Bruce's cover of Santa Claus is Coming to Town
Yes.
being played. That's great.
That's my favorite version of the song, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the idea that they took the time and money to do a really good version of the JSA.
Right.
As we talked a few minutes ago, they cast good people. We set this up for very little screen time, relatively speaking.
Right.
But it was really nicely done. Joel McHale can be can play people arrogant very well.
Right.
And as Starman Sylvester, he seemed very arrogant. Like at the end, like, there'll be one, not you. I want to stress,
Yes.
Not you. You should not be.
Yes.
Like, I may be dying, but I'm going to take my last breath to make sure you're not worthy to carry the cosmic
you're
rod.
not the guy.
Yeah. That was played with a little bit of humor, but just kind of a little bit of a jerk.
Yeah.
So, I liked it. I love seeing the JSA. I loved hearing Bruce. It was a great sequence and kind of sets the idea. It was also great of seeing the Injustice Gang, right?
The Justice Society, yeah.
That was a lot of fun too to see.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about them in our third segment. So,
Okay.
yeah, I really appreciated the JSA. I was a little disappointed. I would have liked to have seen more, but I have to keep in mind this is not the JSA show. This is Stargirl's show, and therefore, that's where the focus needs to be. So they basically they hit you with this material, this backstory, really quickly, and then moved quickly right out of it. Joel McHale Starman, I'm so used to I was a fan of the 80s comic book series from DC Comics, Infinity Incorporated,
I was too.
So like I know, I'm familiar with Sylvester Pemberton as the Star Spangled Kid, and then he ends up becoming he changes his identity as Skyman, not Starman, as Skyman in Infinity Incorporated. And the costume, interestingly, that Joel McHale was wearing was Sylvester Pemberton's Skyman costume.
Oh, nice. I did not know that. I
Yeah,
didn't notice that.
yeah, it's kind of a nod to that from Infinity Incorporated. And so the idea of now in the comics, Sylvester never becomes Starman. So I was a little thrown by that, and then like I was a little disappointed because as both of us are, we're fans of James Robinson's Starman series. So I have to wonder, like, are we getting, like, does Ted Knight, the original Starman from the comics, does he exist in this continuity? Does Jack Knight, his son, who becomes the greatest Starman in my opinion, um, does he exist in this continuity? And because okay, we have the cosmic staff, but we don't know who built it. So did Ted Knight create the cosmic staff and give it to Sylvester, or um, or did Sylvester create it on its own, create the staff on his own, or what? Because I get the vibe from Sylvester, at least the way Joel McHale plays him, he's maybe not that guy that would create something as technologically advanced as the cosmic staff. So what do you think? Did the original Starman create it, or do you think Sylvester created it?
I think we're going to find out, but I agree with you. It doesn't seem that this version of Starman would do that.
Right.
It would be interesting to see the. I would love to have, of course, I would love to see Jack on the series, but
Right.
just to see that the original Starman with the cosmic rod, and then it later became the staff,
Yeah.
I think would make a great subplot and something nice. I would like to see that. I don't know what they're going to do, but it does feel like this isn't. There's got to be some kind of story, because also the staff is more than just a sonic screwdriver or a lightsaber.
Right.
It looks more than a tool.
Yes.
It looks more than just some kind of device.
Well, we talked about it possibly being sentient.
Yes.
Because Courtney asks, "Are you alive?"
Yeah.
And so the question is, is it is there an AI in there, or something else maybe?
Yeah, and I think so, and I think they're. I see something mystical, magical, not necessarily AI-ish, but either way would work. I think that would be very good.
Yeah, and as far as the JSA, I love the fact that we got to see them teased a little bit. I would have liked to have seen more of the members.
Yes.
Obviously, the original Flash, Jay Garrick, the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott. Now, we saw them in the photo.
Right.
But we don't see them in person, obviously, because, well, hey, there's a Flash TV show.
Yes.
And then Warner Brothers has plans for Green Lantern, so maybe they're kind of off limits.
Yeah.
But it seems like they at least exist in this continuity.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't get to see them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, Johnny Thunder would be fun to see. And
Power Girl.
Power Girl, exactly. Yes. The Huntress, that would be great to see. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd love to see that. All right. Anything else about Starman, Stripesy, or the JSA?
Nope.
All right. Oh, and we, of course, we Stripesy is the one who takes the JSA photo because, hey, he's the sidekick.
Exactly. So, I'm taking the photo. Yes.
Yeah. He's not in the photo, but he takes it. All right. Topic number 3. Let's talk about the Injustice Society. And we got to see them in action as they basically lay waste to the Justice Society at the beginning of the story. And then we kind of pick up with a few members years later in Blue Valley. For some reason, they're all hanging out in Blue Valley, interestingly enough. Um, and we get introduced to the original Brainwave, Henry King, the Icicle, Jordan McKent, and Sportsmaster, Larry Crusher Croc, who we find out has a gym named Rip City that he tries to get Pat to join. So what did you make of the Injustice Society?
I think they were interesting villains. I like the idea that they've kind of retired and they've set up their own shop, so to speak, where they're still, you assume they're still friends, they're still interactive, and behind the scenes maybe manipulating the city or the citizens for their own good, for their own evil purposes. I liked it. I don't know where this goes in the topic, but I did not like Henry King Jr. The scenes in the high school.
Well, we can talk about him in our fourth topic. So,
okay, good. So I think it's interesting that we've established that there's this villain that's from the previous generation. She's going to have to fight against seems unfair that they lived and the JSA didn't. So I like this generational setup. We know from previews and from credits that we are going to see a new version of the JSA or Infinity Incorporated, as we talked about. It's going to happen, and I think that's going to be really cool to see. So good villains, good setup. Brainwave Senior, maybe just a little mustache twirling for me.
Yeah, right.
But overall, okay.
What did you think of Brainwave's fight with Courtney early on?
I thought that was good. My only worry is she didn't cover her face or anything. I kept going.
Well, he knows he's going to know who she is.
Exactly, and so I didn't like that. I was worried for her on that. But I thought it was an interesting battle, and it shows that she's, while even untrained, has a lot of potential of she's smart and she's creative. Yeah. And so I thought it was a nice scene to show she's raw, but she has potential.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with coming from that gymnastics background, that she's knows how to use her body. And so instinctually, when she's fighting Brainwave, like dodging all those telekinetically thrown tires and whatnot, she's flipping around. And so, she's got essentially like a good natural talent.
Yes, absolutely.
Even though she doesn't have the experience.
Right.
Brainwave, I want to talk about his son in our next final segment, but yeah, he's, Brainwave, that was obviously a very big bad from the Justice Society comics back in the 40s and whatnot, from back in the day. But, a very powerful villain, has great mental abilities, obviously shows telekinesis here. I don't know if he has telepathy or not. I was a little vague on that.
It appeared he had a little bit of it. Yeah. I'm not sure, so we're going to see.
Yeah. It's still early yet. It's only the first episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but he also seems to be a bit of a hothead because when he phones up Icicle, and he's telling talking about that, and Icicle's just like, well, we'll just lay low for a while and see how this plays out. But Brainwave is like, okay, I'm going to go get my old robes and I'm going to go out and go after whomever trashed my car. So I wonder if that's going to ultimately be his downfall.
It could be. It very much, you're not the boss of me. I'm used to being the leader. I can do whatever I want. And how dare someone bother me in my town is the vibe I got.
Yeah. I mean, it also seems a little strange that, well, hey, all these villains, they settle in this very small Nebraska town. Yeah. Why didn't they spread out and go elsewhere? I'm wondering if there's something that's keeping them there.
It's got to be. There's got to be some kind of agreement or something.
All these years later, something.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Fourth and final topic. Let's talk about Infinity Incorporated.
Okay.
And because we know there's going to be at least three members, or at least characters that were created in the the Infinity Incorporated comic book by Roy Thomas and Todd McFarlane, the guy who created Spawn, by the way. We know that some of Courtney's friends, who she meets very briefly at school, become the new Wildcat, the new Hourman, and the new Dr. Midnight. But I also want to talk about Henry King Jr. in this segment because from the comics, Henry King Jr. is Brainwave Jr., a member of Infinity Incorporated. So I'm kind of wondering, he starts off being a bully, a real jerk in this. I wonder if he's going to reform later on and become Brainwave Jr. What do you think?
It does not look like it to me, though.
It's only the first episode. Keep in mind.
Yeah, I know Logan originally was a villain in Veronica Mars and later became her epic love interest. I didn't like this part of the episode at all.
Okay.
I felt it was too cliched. The new girl being treated with the mean girl and the cool kids ignoring her. She's having to go to the loser table. I just felt all this was a little too cliche. I've seen it before. I didn't enjoy that part at all. Now
that could be a generational thing, though. To be fair, because you are not in high school anymore. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, absolutely.
So maybe that was the intent. That was an attempt to relate to the younger viewers watching the show.
I just think you can do it better. Okay. And this is, I just think it comes across. We've seen too many TV shows, too many movies giving this exact same storyline. Yeah. So now this is just the first one. They could do something very creative down the road. And I get that. But just first impressions, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, we're going to do that again.
Well, one thing I noticed though, really quick, I'm sorry to interrupt. One thing I noticed during that drive-in scene was that if you notice in the background, the Goonies was playing. Nice. The 80s classic.
I did not notice that. That's very cool.
Yeah, the Goonies is playing. And so and the whole scenes with Courtney driving around or flying around town on her cosmic staff, I kind of got a little bit of a Back to the Future vibe in that. So I'm wondering if that whole business with the car and the bully and whatnot, I'm wondering if that was kind of like an intentional homage to kind of like 80s movies.
Could be, and like I said,
that kind of throwback feel to it.
Yeah, I'm in for the series. I'm in for the storytelling I'm going to see. Yeah. Just as first impression, I like. You would like it. I would have liked to see some more nuance.
Right.
When you're dealing with the teenage set in high school, we'll see what happens. So, but that's just my first impressions. I'm not. I would have liked to seen, like I said, just a little more nuance, a little more in depth. We'll see what happens, though.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, we don't get to learn much about these characters. They're only kind of shown very briefly, like you said, at the losers' table, and then I think Rick shows up in the detention hall, if I'm not mistaken, when Courtney was in there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So, obviously we're going to get more, but maybe Rick will kind of be the rebel that Courtney falls in love with at some point.
We'll see. Yeah,
we'll see.
It's good.
The bad boy, I should say.
Yes, but it's a very minor nitpick. Overall, this was really good, and there is a reason why you do a cliche, because it's very quick storytelling. You're doing it.
The audience understands it.
Yeah, and so I agree. You've got to be patient and give the story time to play out. It's only one episode, so there may be some twist coming on. You might be right. Henry King Jr. may redeem himself. It ends up being someone that we cheer for. We'll see.
Right. All right. Anything else about this episode? this first episode?
No, I didn't. I just really like about it. Um, there overall, it's a really good start. It sets the world up really well. So I'm excited to seeing it. I'm going to look forward to going to DC Universe and watching the extended version to see what I missed. But even just watching it on CW, I thought it was a really good hour of TV.
Yeah, I think that in the full version on DC Universe, not the truncated version, the full version, I think there's a lot more of the backstory presented, like Courtney and everybody walking around town, and it gets you a little bit more character development than what was shown on the CW. So you probably get to get a better feel for the characters, I think, if you watch the DC Universe version. All right. So do you have any favorite lines of the episode?
I not overall. I thought it was well, but it wasn't. There's a couple of things like I mentioned with Sylvester going, "You're not it. You're not it."
Yeah.
But it's you might have a few, but there's nothing that stood out for me.
Yeah. I like Courtney talking with her cosmic staff, going like, "Oh my God, what did you do? No, bad stick, bad." I thought that was fun. And Courtney talking to Pat about if Starman was her father. And then she says, and Pat replies, "Well, if he what?" And Courtney says, "Well, Starman died the exact night as my father vanished." And Pat says, "Okay, that would be the coincidences to end all coincidences if Starman was your father. It's not in the realm of possibility." And Courtney says, "Well, what about fate, Pat? Destiny? Maybe the stars aligned. Stars, Starman, it would make so much sense. My father never showed up at that night because he died saving the world." So I thought that was good. And then lastly, another Courtney Pat scene where she kind of teases him about his Stripesy name. She goes, "So your name was Stripesy?" And Pat goes, "Because of all the stripes." Courtney says, "Yeah, I got that. Someone really should have helped you brainstorm a better code name." Pat's like, "What's wrong with it?" Courtney goes, "Well, for starters, I highly doubt it intimidated the bad guys. I mean, look out, here comes Stripesy."
Very nice, yes.
So I thought that was good. All right, so what's your rating for this one?
I think it's a solid, 8 out of 10. Santa Claus is coming to town.
Okay. All right. I'm going to give this one a little higher because I really kind of dug this one. I give it 8.5 out of 10 Star Rocket Racers.
Nice.
Because that little that convertible that Pat was drove everybody into town with, all red and white.
Yes.
Well, that if you're familiar at all with the comic books, you know that back in the day, the Star Spangled Kid and Stripesy used to tool around in this kind of souped up convertible that sedan that Pat built called the Star Rocket Racer, and it had all kinds of gadgets in it. And so I'm kind of wondering if that convertible is eventually going to be revealed to have all kinds of cool gizmos inside and can fly and all kinds of stuff because Pat built it. So
okay, we'll watch that and see.
We'll see, but it'd be kind of very nice nod to the original Star Spangled Kid.
It would be.
All right, Fandom Zone news. We know we've been off for a while. The big story, of course, was Ruby Rose leaving Batwoman. Now the show's going to recast, of course, for season 2, and apparently they're going to look for a new LGBTQ actress to play the lead role of Batwoman, Kate Kane, excuse me. It was originally reported, the two sides mutually decided to part ways after recently reflecting on the first season and its challenges, unquote. And the decision's not related to a stunt injury that Ruby Rose sustained during the filming of season 1 that left her facing paralysis and needing emergency surgery. But apparently, insiders are saying, well, she left because Ruby Rose was bothered by the long hours demanded by the shoot in a lead TV role. She didn't acclimate well to life in Vancouver, where the show is shot. So it sounds basically like, Ruby Rose wasn't happy. The show wasn't really happy with her attitude, and they decided, okay, we're just going to part ways. What did you make of this news?
Yeah, based on everything, because you and I've exchanged a little bit on Twitter about this, and I agree with your initial sentiment. It's going to be okay. If you're a fan of the show, don't panic. They'll do a good job. They'll find a good replacement.
There's been recastings before, and they've been fine.
It appears after reading this that she did not realize how much work this would take. She did not realize how difficult it would be to be in Vancouver for all those months, away from friends and family, and also probably how hard of a role this is, how grueling,
yes,
and strenuous.
Probably a lot of late night shoots,
yes,
at 3 a.m. or something.
Yeah. And it very physically demanding. Then when you because she's not used to that, she probably wasn't the most pleasant person on set. This is just pure speculation.
Right.
Showing her frustration, being just tough, even if she's trying to be polite. Let's say she made every effort to be as nice as she could be to work past it. You could tell that she's struggling and working with that. And if I've read anything, that the top of the call sheet sets the tone for a TV show.
Yeah.
No matter what the TV show, no matter what the genre, whoever is at the top of that call sheet makes a difference. And if she is not all in, if she is not having this with a spirit, because you imagine, like Stephen Amell seemed to be all in, was so supportive, was so great.
He knew, he had that sense of, he knew that Arrow rested on his shoulders, that responsibility.
I was talking, you think about where, hello background people.
Yeah. Hello, Crypto.
Everything from, just Kyle Chandler and Connie Britton on Friday Night Lights, or just name, Grant Gustafson in The Flash, or, going back to, other shows, Tom Selleck and Magnum PI, whatever you want to do, whatever the genre, if you aren't setting the right tone, it's not going to be a good set. And so I think this was a mutual thing that, hey, this is not quite what you signed up for.
It's not working out.
Yeah, you aren't happy. We aren't happy. Let's part as friends. We wish you the best in your career. Let's move on to the show. And it sounds like she was happy to go. Yeah. I mean, I think she was not like, I can't believe.
Well, I'm sure after that scare of, facing paralysis, she's probably like, look, this show is like almost like paralyzed me.
Yes.
So, or, maybe she's just like, I can't keep doing this. This isn't what I signed up for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, on a brighter note, Doom Patrol coming back for season 2 on June 25th on both DC Universe and HBO Max.
Nice.
So if you don't have one, but you do have the other, or you have both, hey, so that's coming back at the end of June, which is big news for Jesse and me as we talk on our Titan Talk, the Titans podcast. Is definitely looking forward to Doom Patrol season 2. So I just thought I'd kind of give everybody a heads up about that, especially if you listen to us on Titan Talk. Obviously, we've been off for a while, so no fan mail. But if you want to reach us, and please do, if you got thoughts about the Stargirl pilot or what's coming up in the show, drop us a line here at Fandom Zone Cast on Twitter. Or, hey, Facebook, the Fandom Zone Podcast. Or Instagram at Fandom Zone Podcast, or you can reach us on email, the Gmail specifically, at fandomzonecast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Love to know what you think about Stargirl. Did you dig the pilot? Did you not like the pilot? Are you looking forward to what's coming up, or are you not? So please check that out. And And hope you enjoy it. And please reach out to us because we'd love to hear from you. In addition, you can reach me at Charles Skaggs on the Twitter machine, or you reach me at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio, or my blog of geeky things. Gotta do the thing here. Come on.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn Good Coffee and Hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Your comic book, sci-fi news, news of my other podcasts that I do for the Southgate Media Group, including Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast that I do with Jesse, Titan Talk, the Titans podcast that I also do with Jesse, and Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch, and crap ton of pop culture references. So I hope everybody checks that out. Jesse, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
So I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Jesse Jackson DFW. I am, in addition to the podcast that I do with Charles, you can hear me on Set Listing Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast, where I talk to Bruce Springsteen fans from around the world, and we talk music. Coming up in June, a certain Charles Skaggs is joining me,
Yes.
and we had a fun hour talking all kinds of music topics, so look for that. That's going to come up pretty soon. And I'm just excited that we're on a new journey. We're talking Stargirl, and we'll be talking Doom Patrol, so we continue to go down our Doctor Who path on Next Stop Everywhere, so please check us out. Please support us. Go to iTunes, rate and review the show. Please download it and share it with your friends. I don't know how many Stargirl podcasts there are out there, but we've got to be one of the first. Please, anyone who's watching the show, tell them about the show, and we'd love some feedback.
Please
Charles,
do. Yeah.
we got another one in the books.
Exactly. So, everybody, hope you enjoyed our discussion of this first Stargirl episode. Then come on back next time on the Phantom Zone podcast for episode 178 as we discuss STRIPE. That stands for Stripe. So that's the title of the second episode of Stargirl. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. We're glad we're back, ready to talk some more Stargirl. Hopefully we'll see more of the JSA. And we'll see you next time right here on the Phantom Zone podcast. Goodbye, everybody.